Hello! So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how you can use braiding hair to do some braided elements to a cosplay wig. Braiding hair is one of those things that I think is kind of significantly underutilized in cosplay, as you can do some really fun and cool things with it. For this, you will need obviously some braiding hair, a wig, some hair ties, you will need some thread, and some pins if you're using a wig head to pin your wig to your head, and you'll need some scissors. The other thing you will need for this is you will need to know how to braid. I'm not going to show you how to braid or how to French braid. That's a skill that there are lots of people on the internet who can teach you how to do that, probably better than me. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to add a braid to the wig you already have. Different kinds of braiding hair. Some of it's really long, some of it's really textured, some of it's really smooth. Some of it has like what this says, like a hot water set, which basically means that to set it when it's in like a braid that you braid all the way to the bottom, you have to dunk it in hot water. Some of it doesn't need that. It just depends on what your project is. And it's really inexpensive. So if you're unsure, maybe buy one or two types and use which one works best for you. So I'm going to separate a piece off of this really big chunk, and I'm gonna have this little piece, and I'm gonna set my big chunk to the side. So the other thing that's important to note about braiding hair is it's kind of a mess because it is just a bunch of loose hair. It's not wefted in any way, so be careful with it as you're working with it. It will get tangled, and it will also get all over the place. Now I've got my single piece, and you can kind of, depending on the size of your braid, I want a small braid, so I'm going to do a little bit of hair, but if you want a bigger braid, you'll do more hair. And what I'm about to show you is a box braiding technique. So the reason you want to do this, or you would do this, is because I really want kind of a chunky braid, but I don't want to use more hair than what I have here. And this is not going to give me kind of a thick braid. So I'm going to add this hair that I have to it. Okay, so now you've got your piece sectioned out that you want and your hair. In my case, my wig is super duper slippery. The hair itself is really slippery. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to kind of hook the hair that I'm braiding onto a pin. So I'm going to put the pin in there. I'm going to put this like this. And I'm going to start braiding it. And you want it to be really tight, and you can kind of adjust the pin as you go. This is just to help keep the hair really close to the scalp, so it looks like it's almost growing out of it. After you get a little ways down, you're going to take some hair from your larger sections of your braid to just kind of make that middle piece that you have that's from your wig that's kind of thin the same size, so that your braid is the same thickness all the way down. And then you just braid it the rest of the way down, or however long you want your braid to be. So now that your braid is the length that you want it, mine's like yay-ish long, you can do a couple of things. You can tie it off. It's just like a regular rubber band. Or if you don't want to have a rubber band, what you can do is you can braid all the way to the bottom of your hair, and you can dip it in boiling water. If your hair is hot water set, because this will not stay braided if I do not tie it off in some way. You can trim off any of your flyaways. If you don't like the little puff you get at the end, once again, you can dip it in boiling water and it will smooth it all out. So now I've got a cup of boiling water. I'm just going to take my hair, I'm just going to dip the end of it in there and see how it kind of like straightens it out. The second kind of braid I'm going to show you how to do is how to make a braid on its own. This is really good if you have a wig that is really short and you really want to add a braid to it, but you're not sure how because the wig is really short, or if you have a really thin wig and you don't want to take hair from the wig to make a braid because it's just really, if you do that, it's going to leave a weird part in your wig. So just like before, we're going to take a little bit of hair, however big-ish you want your braid to be, and I'm going to take about the same amount as before because I want it to be about the same size as this one. And now, instead of braiding it onto the actual wig, what you're going to do is you're going to take your thread, you're going to cut a decent length piece, probably no more than 2 feet, and you're going to find the middle of your hair, so it's still folded in half, right? You're going to take your thread and you're literally just going to wrap it around the middle of your, okay, I'm going to move this head. And you're just going to wrap it around the middle of your piece of hair like this. You're going to wrap it a couple times. You'll probably get some hair tangled while you're doing it. Don't worry about that. A couple strands is not going to hurt you. And you just want to keep going. Do it probably like 5 or 6 times, enough so that there's a decent buildup of thread that you can kind of see where it's tied. And you can go either direction, you can use both pieces, whatever works best for you. Then you're gonna have kind of this like little bend, right? You're gonna take your thread and you're gonna tie it. You're gonna tie it really, really tight. That's gonna kind of be your, as I like to call it, an anchor point. I'm gonna take my thread and I'm gonna wrap it around that pin. A lot. Then I'm gonna push that pin in there so that it's kind of like holding my hair where I want it. Now that you have your hair kind of anchored, keep your thread out of the way, you're gonna split your hair into 3 equal parts, right? And once they're about equal in size, you're just gonna braid it a little ways. See how you kind of have that little nodule? And then before you braid too much further, you're gonna take another pin. You're gonna stick it in the end of the braid so that the braid is actually what's secured now. And then you're just gonna braid all the way down to the length you want. This is one thing I forgot to mention that you will need at the beginning of the video, but you will need a needle for this part. So I'm gonna use my thread now that I have left over from this. How nice and convenient, right? And I'm going to thread a needle. So now you've got a needle, and on the end of it is your braid. And you can sew this into your wig wherever it goes. And as you're sewing, occasionally try to catch your braid again so that you're sewing not only into your wig but also into your braid a couple times just to make sure it's really secure. And then of course tie off your thread like you normally would just if you were sewing in general. So now I'm going to show you how to make a really, really big braid. So you're going to take, I'm going to take this completely new package of braiding hair, and I'm not even going to section it out. I think I'm just going to use the whole bunch. You want your braid to be like really, really thick, like a Rapunzel braid. You could actually even get a couple bundles of hair to do this with. Get like maybe 3 or 4, combine them together and tie, you know, your thread or whatever around them, and you'll get a really, really fat braid. So this is something that I think a lot of Rapunzel cosplayers would benefit from. You can buy, like I said, you can buy braiding hair in all colors. If you're trying to do Rapunzel and you want her really, really thick braid, this is a great way to do it. So I'm going to do the same method as what I did before. I'm going to take thread and I'm going to tie it around the middle. I also really like this method because it's a great way to make a braid that's removable from your wig. So wigs are on your head, they get stinky, right? But maybe you don't want to remove your braid and restyle it every time you have to restyle your wig. This is a great alternative for that. I'm going to split it into 3 equal parts, then I'm just going to braid away. So now you have a really big braid. This braid is actually exactly as long as I want it to be. But if you wanted it to be longer, I can show you how to do that. So now let's say you have a braid and you're gotten about halfway down and you realize that it's not going to be long enough. And so this is what you're going to do. You want to make sure that you have a decent amount of hair left, especially if you're using something that's blunt on the end, like braiding hair. If you're doing this on a wig and it has a naturally tapered end, then you probably don't need to be halfway down and you could start a little bit lower on the braid, but you need to be have a decent amount left so that you can naturally fade in your extra length. So what you're going to do is you're going to take some more hair and you're going to take little pieces of your new hair, right? Pretty small amounts. because you don't want to accidentally make a bulky spot. You're going to take this and you're going to fold it in half, like so. And you're going to take one half and put it on the outside of your braid, and you're going to take the other half and put that on the other outside piece of your braid. And then you're just going to keep braiding. So then you do a couple braid passes, and now you add in a little bit more. So then you take this much, right? And like I said, if you do this as you go, it'll add length to your braid without changing the density of it. And now see how much longer my pieces are. And you can just keep doing this as you go down further and further. Basically, doing this, you now have a lot of extra length to continue your braid further down. And you will get some sticky outies. If you have those extra bits at the end, you can literally just take your scissors and chop off your spiky bits. And that's all for this video. I hope this was helpful. I hope these are some good braiding techniques that you find yourself using. And thank you all so much. See you later.